Barefoot shoes can cause injuries, foot pain, or they can be the best thing in the world that you can do for your feet. So, which side of the fence are you on? Because today I'm going to break down what they actually are, who they're for, bust some of the biggest myths, and if they're right for you, I'll show you exactly which ones to go for and how to transition properly. So first, what actually is a barefoot shoe? A barefoot shoe is designed to mimic being barefoot, while still protecting your foot from the ground. The first thing is the stack height. That's just how much material sits between your foot and the ground. Barefoot shoes are very thin, usually just a few millimeters. They're also completely flat, what we call zero drop. So your heel and your forefoot are at the same level. And this is the big one. You can literally bend them in half. And most of them are much wider at the front, so your toes have room to spread out properly. And those features are exactly why barefoot shoes can either help your feet or cause problems. But when you look at what the research doesn't support, that's where things get really interesting. Because despite all the claims online, there's actually no strong evidence to reduce overall risk of injury. Some studies show similar injury rates compared to traditional running shoes, and others show different types of injuries, rather than fewer in those that transition safely. And the same goes for performance. There's no consistent evidence that barefoot shoes make you faster or more efficient long term. So if you're expecting fewer injuries or better performance just from changing your shoes, the research doesn't really support that. And here's the key reason why. Injuries don't disappear, they just move. When you switch to barefoot shoes, you typically reduce the load going through your knee and heel, but you increase the load through your foot, your calf, and your Achilles tendon. So instead of knee pain, you might now be dealing with calf tightness, Achilles irritation, or even stress reactions in the bones of your foot. And this is where things can become a real problem, especially during that transition phase, because one of the most consistent findings in the research is that switching too quickly significantly increases your risk of injury. Your muscles, tendons, and bones all need time to adapt to increased load. And if they don't get that time, you can overload the system, leading to issues like Achilles tendinopathy, or even stress fractures in the metatarsals. So it's not that barefoot shoes are inherently dangerous, it's that they demand more from your body. So when you look at the bigger picture, the research is actually quite clear. Barefoot shoes don't reduce stress, they redistribute it. So let's start with the benefits of barefoot shoes, because there are some real upsides to wearing these. First is strength. When you take away the cushioning and support, your foot has to do more of the work. The small intrinsic muscles, the arch, and the calf complex, they all become more stimulated. And we do have some evidence for this. Studies have shown increases in foot muscle size and strength after around 6 to 8 weeks of minimalist footwear. Over time, that can lead to stronger feet, better load tolerance, and improved control of your arch. The second is natural movement. Barefoot shoes allow your foot to move more freely, more toe splay, more flexibility through the forefoot, and a gait that's often a bit closer to how we'd move without shoes. Some of these changes can actually happen quite quickly. Sometimes within a few sessions or a couple of weeks, you'll see changes like a slightly higher cadence or less overstriding. The third is control. With less material between your foot and the ground, you get more sensory feedback that can improve balance, proprioception, and how well you respond to uneven surfaces. But this is the most important part. Your tissues don't adapt that quickly. Your calf, your Achilles, even the bones in your foot can take 8 to 12 weeks or longer to build real load tolerance. So there's a bit of a mismatch. Your movement changes fast, but your tissues take time to catch up. So yes, there are benefits: stronger feet, more natural movement, better control, but only if your body is actually ready and given enough time to handle these loads. So who are barefoot shoes actually good for? First, people with strong, pain-free feet. If you've already got a good baseline strength through your foot and calf, you're in a much better position to tolerate the increased demands, because when you switch to a barefoot shoe, you're increasing the load through the Achilles, the plantar fascia, and the metatarsals. And we know from the research that these tissues take time to adapt. Second, people who are willing to transition gradually. This is probably the most important factor. Studies looking at runners transitioning to minimalist shoes show that injury risk is highest in the early phase, particularly when the change is too aggressive. That's because your movement pattern can change within a few sessions, but your tissues lag behind. So a better approach is starting with shorter periods, low intensity, and controlled environments. and gradually building up over weeks to months, not days. And I'll talk about that in detail after our shoe recommendations. And thirdly, specific use cases like the gym or short walks. This is where barefoot shoes make the most sense. You're getting the benefits of increased foot activation, better ground contact feel, and improved balance, but without the repetitive loads you get from longer walks or running. So if you are someone who should be using barefoot shoes, or you'd like to try it, the next question is, which ones are actually worth it? If you're looking for a barefoot shoe that's actually realistic to wear day to day, LEMS shoes are probably the best shoes to start with. What LEMS do really well is sit in that middle ground between a true barefoot shoe and something more traditional. They still get a wide toe box so your toes can spread naturally, and a relatively low drop which encourages more natural movement. But the key difference is they don't go fully minimal. There is still a little bit of cushioning underfoot which takes the edge off and makes them more forgiving, especially if you're newer to barefoot style footwear. And from a clinical perspective, that matters, because one of the biggest issues we see with barefoot shoes is people going from too much support to almost nothing overnight. LEMS reduce that jump. So instead of going straight into a thin, aggressive barefoot shoe, you've got something that still encourages foot activation but without overloading the tissues too quickly. They also tend to have more structured upper, which makes them easier to wear casually. They don't look overly barefoot, which is a bonus if you're using them for work or everyday use. Now, they're not a true barefoot shoe. If your goal is maximum ground feel or very high activation, there are more minimal options out there. But for most people, especially if you're transitioning or just want a comfortable, wide-fitting shoe for walking, LEMS is a really good balance. Think of them as a gateway barefoot shoe. I just want to thank LEMS for sponsoring this video, because it wouldn't have been possible at all if it wasn't for them. Then another shoe that we've been testing is the Vivo Barefoot, and they're at the other end of the spectrum. They're much closer to a true barefoot experience. You've got a very thin midsole, zero drop, a wide toe box which gives you a lot of ground feel. This means more sensory feedback, more foot activation, and more demand on your tissues. And that's the key point. These are a high demand shoe. They can be great if you've already built up a good foot strength and you want to maximize that barefoot feel. They're also popular for things like walking, travel, and even gym use, where you want that connection with the ground, but they're not very forgiving. Now, a lesser known brand is Wilding, and these are their fauna shoes, and Wilding are probably the most unique out of all the options we're going to suggest today. This is the faunus model, which is a good example of why. The first thing you'll notice is just how thin they are. It's the material and feel. This uses deer leather, which is incredibly soft and flexible. So instead of feeling like a structured shoe, it almost wraps around your foot. There's no stiffness, no break-in period. It just moves with you straight away. And paired with that shell sole, you get a really interesting combination. Where the shoe stands out is for casual walking, travel, and honestly, just comfort throughout the day. The sustainability side is also worth mentioning. Using repurposed deer leather is a nice touch, especially if that's something that matters to you. Then we have Bianca, especially models like the Zing, are probably one of the most wearable barefoot shoes you can find. What stands out here is how they blend barefoot features with a more structured everyday sneaker design. You still got key barefoot elements like a wide toe box for natural toe splay, zero drop sole for more natural positioning, and a flexible outsole that moves with your foot. But compared to more minimal brands, there's a bit more going on. The Comfort Grip Neo sole gives you a slightly more stable, durable feel underfoot. And the upper, whether it's leather or textile, adds a bit more structure. So you don't get that overly soft, collapsible feeling you might notice in something like the Wilding or Vivo Barefoot. And where these work really well is for all-day walking, lifestyle use, and people who want barefoot benefits without it feeling too extreme. Then we have Zero shoes, especially the Prio Neo. These are much more of a performance orientated barefoot shoe. This isn't really a lifestyle shoe in the same way of Bianca or Wilding. It's built for movement. You've got a lightweight design, a breathable upper mesh, and a flexible sole that gives you a lot of ground feedback. The big difference here is the structure throughout the midfoot. The adjustable straps around the midfoot and heel actually lock your foot in place, which makes a big difference for things like gym work, short runs, and lateral movement. The outsole is also more grippy and durable, so it can handle higher loads and more varied movement without feeling unstable. So if you're thinking about trying barefoot shoes, here's how to actually do it without messing it up. Most studies use transition periods of 12 weeks to 6 months, and the highest risk period is during that first 4 to 8 weeks, so you really need to respect that early phase. So step 1, start with exposure, not exercise. Don't go straight into runs or long walks. Start with using them around the house, going for short walks, 10 to 20 minutes at a time. Do that 3 to 4 times a week. This isn't about fitness. It's about letting your foot experience the load. Step 2, build slowly. This is the key. After 2 to 3 weeks, if everything feels good, increase by 5 to 10 minutes at a time, or swap one short walk per week into barefoot shoes. No big jumps, because remember, the highest risk window is still those first 4 to 8 weeks. Step 3, use the 24-hour rule. This is your safety check. After using barefoot shoes, ask, how do I feel the next day? If you've no problems, everything feels normal, you can progress. If there's a slight soreness, stay at the same level. Pain that lingers or worsens, pull back to what you were doing before. Don't guess, use your symptoms to guide you. Step 4, add strength. And this is what actually helps to protect you. 2 to 3 times per week, try some calf raises, single leg balance, and simple foot exercises. We've got specific videos on how to strengthen the intrinsic muscles of your feet if you want to check them out on our channel, because using barefoot shoes on their own is helpful, but it's even better if you strengthen your feet alongside them. Step 5, don't replace all your shoes. This is a big mistake. Keep your cushioned shoes for longer walks, busy days, and when your feet feel tired. Think of barefoot shoes as a tool you introduce gradually, not a full replacement. So the goal isn't to rush it, it's to build capacity over time. Because if you do this part right, that's when barefoot shoes actually start to work for you, not against you. And while you're transitioning, it's worth considering using LEMS shoes, even if it's as a temporary option before you go into something more minimalist. That was one of the things that really surprised me when I've tested them over the last couple of months. It's something like the Vivo Barefoot is literally like wearing nothing on your foot at all. It is actually quite comfortable even though it's very minimalist, but this is where LEMS sits directly in the middle. It gives that extra bit of padding even though it's not soft like you have in a running or walking shoe. It's a thicker rubber that's a little bit firmer, but you just feel like you're getting that extra element of protection off the ground. So it's an excellent option for transitioning, and I'll link all the shoes in the description below that we talked about, including some of the videos on strengthening your foot. However, it's a very broad topic. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Is the video interesting, helpful? Do you have any questions on anything that I brought up? And are you interested in me providing these sorts of reviews and educational info in the future? Otherwise, thank you very much for checking in once again.